Great, thanks, and good morning. And from Colorado, I know it's good afternoon, depending on where everybody else is in the country. And I appreciate the introduction. There's a more human side to the introduction as well. I'm a father of 3 children, and that was my official bio, but I'm a father of 3 children. My middle daughter, who is now 16 years old, has Down syndrome. I have one that just graduated high school and another that's in 8th grade. And when I started as a financial planner was before I had actually I had 1 child right at the time, but before my daughter with Down syndrome was born. And I think like most of you who are listening today, I wasn't 100% sure what next steps I should take once my daughter was born on the financial and legal side. It was a blur as I was trying to figure out what benefits were out there, what it was all going to mean, and there was no way to really know when my daughter was 1 month old and 6 months old and 2 years old, and even now at 16 years old, how independent she'll be able to be and what kind of needs she'll have and supports that she'll need through her whole life. And so hopefully I can be on the journey with you a little bit here today. And I know if you have questions, feel free to send them up on the chat, and we'll try and address all the questions at the end. But like many of you, I'm a father or a parent and trying to figure out how to have the best quality of life for me and my family and make sure I'm preserving all the benefits that are out there for my daughter with special needs. So I have a few slides to go through here. Some of you may have also downloaded the worksheets, and when there's a number up on the slide, I'll point you to a particular worksheet. You don't necessarily have to do it today, but I want to explain why the worksheets are so important and how that really impacts the planning that we're going to do and be able to do. So many reasons to plan, and the biggest reason is obviously we have somebody in our life who's got special needs who's not going to be able to take care of him or herself. So as we think about planning, there's really 4 main components that I look at. The first is who we are as people. And as we go through planning, as we go through life with our family members with special needs and frankly with other children as well, we live with a high degree, and I would say a higher degree of stress and frustration to some degree about just in life in general. What I see from families that I work with is we have more doctor's appointments, more school meetings, more moments where we're just not sure where the future is going to go. And as I've been working for people now for close to 16 years on special needs planning, I see the biggest thing that happens is once we start planning for the future, and that means just sitting down and trying to figure out where we're headed, but then also meeting with other professionals and just getting this shape of our financial and our legal life in place, stress gets reduced. And I see it when people come into my office, and you're probably feeling it right now. Your back's a little tight because you're listening to me talk about this serious stuff, and shoulders are hunched when people come in. And within usually 15 to 30 minutes, I can just see people's stress level start to fall a little bit as they know that there's a way to get through some serious planning work and to put some benefits in place to help their family member with developmental disabilities. So a huge reason to plan is that your life will be better, in addition to the fact that everybody else's life in your family will be better too. Another reason to plan, and this is just the basic facts and figures, the national payment for somebody who is of the age of 18 and receiving supplemental security income is a monthly check of $771. And so when my daughter turns 18, if she is qualified disabled, which is very likely given that she's got Down syndrome, and that if she does not have any assets in her name or assets less than $2,000 that are counted by Social Security Administration, she'll be entitled to a check once a month of $771. And so I just run the numbers out here. If she lives for 30 years and gets that every month, that's a $277,000 roughly benefit that she will get from the income side of things. Now, depending on disability, there may be a little bit less that comes, or if she lives at home and you're paying for things. But generally speaking, to me, that's a lot of money. And for most of us, it's worth, 5 or 10 hours during the course of the next few months to sit down to be able to preserve $277,000. There's a bigger number that's potentially out there too, and this is just sort of a shot in the dark kind of number. But very often we see people whose family members receive $40,000 a year of benefit from Medicaid. And so if your family member is over the age of 18 and is qualified disabled, it's likely that they'll have Medicaid for their health insurance. And then if they're older, maybe 25, 30, 35, 50 years old, they may also be getting some degree of long-term care services, and every state handles it a little bit differently. But those benefits easily can equal tens of thousands, $40,000, $80,000 a year. And so I always say there's really millions of dollars to protect by doing good planning, which is, again, why I think you're all trying to get here, and that good planning takes some forms on both the legal and financial side. So big dollars potentially that are out there. Oops. I think the biggest reason that we all feel that stress is that we just want to do a good job for our family members, right? That whether we knew it was coming or not. I didn't know when my daughter was born that she was going to have Down syndrome, but I feel this way about my other two children too. Is that we've got other people that we feel an obligation to take care of. Their lives, in many ways, are in our hands if we do good planning, which includes maybe for when we're not here and making sure that our families are in a good place too. As you can tell, I'm a financial planner. I don't have a lot of extra humor built into my slides or my presentation, but hopefully we have a lot of joy, love, and fun as we're going along here, and that's the attitude that you take, because I think the biggest reason to plan is that we all want to have the best quality of life for our entire lives, and that's for every member of our family. And so we may have family members that are going to go off to college and become independent, live on their own, not live in our basements, figure out a way to pay for their whole lives. I don't have any children that are there yet, but I'm hoping I'll have at least 2 out of 3. But then if my daughter, she may be able to live independently too. And I'm just so optimistic about this world that we're having with Uber and Lyft opportunities for transportation and all the social engagement that she already has. She's a huge fan of the app that used to be called TikTok, or maybe it's still called TikTok. Right? And so she can engage with all these people, and she's got a much higher quality of life than I would have ever expected, and I want her to continue to be able to have that her whole life. I've got a process called Blueprints. It's really 3 critical areas. And the first is, and I use the model of building a house, is that before you build a house, you're going to think and plan, you're going to get an architect and get all that in place, but really, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a condo in New York? Do you want to be in the country by the beach? And so as you are thinking about your own planning, and this is where the worksheets start to come in a little bit, the first step is always thinking about what you want to do. And I have a quote, and I think it's from Oprah because I wrote it down at some point. And I think Oprah's done okay for herself over the course of her life, and she's such an icon to so many people. And the quote is, if you want to accomplish anything in life, you have to begin with the spirit. Right? We have to first decide we want to make change. We want to embrace the future. We've got to get passionate about what steps we're going to take next. The technical stuff that I do, that an attorney does, that we're going to figure out over time, that's all going to fall into place if you are just passionate and excited and ideally thrilled about the planning work. But even if you're nervous and feel overwhelmed by it, we need to take those first steps and get moving. These building blocks are all explained in my book, so I'm going to skip this a little bit. And I'm going to get to some of the planning things that we really have to jump into. And in my workshops, in my book, and when I talk with people, this slide here, finding the time and space to think and dream, is by far the biggest thing that you can do to launch all of the other planning. And I'll get into some technical aspects here. And if you downloaded the worksheets, what we see so often is that busy people, busy parents, busy husbands and wives or partners never seem to find 5 minutes or an hour to just stop and think about what do they want to do. And I was in the same boat for several years, and then I realized I go run in a local park in the morning, that before my run I'd take 10 minutes and just sit and think and dream. And that is Colorado. It's not my picture, but it looks that beautiful. We don't want any more people moving to Colorado because it's very busy out here, but find a place that's good for you. It could be in your house. It could be a coffee shop. It could be a park bench. It could be anywhere. Get it just to figure out what you're going to do. And the first worksheet is, when are you going to do it? Let's make a commitment to thinking about it and ideally writing it down. What day of the week is going to be best, what time of day, and what's the best location. I often see parents, and we don't go to therapy as much as we used to when we were in speech therapy, who would spend the entire hour of time speaking with other parents, which is great for social and learning abilities too. But I sometimes speak to parents and say, do you ever have an hour? And then we talk about when their kids are at therapy, that might be the hour for you, right? Walk outside, get some fresh air, and start to write things down. This is the biggest next step that you can take depending on where you are. And again, that 1 hour, we believe, is just the way you change your life. If you have printed out or are looking at the worksheets online, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's explained in the book, and we just don't have time to go through everything today because I do want to get some technical pieces out of the way. But writing down all your hopes and dreams, clarifying your values, finding ways to write down and appreciate both your personal strengths and what you find in the world that you love, those are all tools and skills that are going to help you succeed, thrive, and just enjoy this great quality of life. What we see is so important is for people just to get their stuff in order, and some people are great at this and some people not so great. One of my clients, who has a family member who's got some mental health issues, had a very interesting way of organizing her and her family's financial life. And I think the organization started like this. Something would come in the mailbox, right, when statements and everything used to come in the mail. She'd get the mail, and she had maybe a 5-foot table by 2-foot table, right near the entryway to the house. And so she'd put the new stuff on one end of the table, and then it would pile up, and then the new stuff would go into a pile further down the table. And I think what would happen when one end was too big, she would just do a little bit of a shove to make space and recycle everything on the other end. That was not a great way to organize her financial life, and it didn't serve her well when she needed to meet with the attorney and meet with me. And so we spent a lot of time just opening up all the different things that came in and putting together a list of all of her financial things. And so one of the other worksheets that you'll see is the financial checklist, and what you want to get together in either a pile or a file folder or someplace for purposes of this next big step of planning is all of your financial information. Because when you go into an attorney to get your estate plan done, or if you use a financial advisor or need to get some term life insurance, you're going to need to know where all of this stuff is. And so let's just get it done now. So after you've spent an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 figuring out really what is it that you're trying to do and accomplish, and is it get out of debt, is it take more control, is it find the best nonprofit programs, all the stuff's going to come up. Let's get the financial stuff in order. A cornerstone of planning for special needs is the ability to preserve and protect benefits. And in one of the earlier slides, I showed that those benefits can easily be worth $1 million, or if you add up over a longer lifetime, $2 million, sometimes even $3 million if you have a very high-needs family member. And so the way we preserve and protect benefits is using this tool called a special needs trust. Like I said, my daughter, when she turns 18, can't have more than $2,000 in her name. And so if I were to die and I have some life insurance and IRAs and any other assets, and I split them for my children, if I give any of that share of that's more than $2,000 to my daughter, she won't qualify for benefits, and we're going to have to unwind some things, and she's going to not get the care that she needs, and she's going to lose access to her health insurance. She might lose access to her work and any day programs that she's involved in. And so one of the things that I don't have a slide on, but it's critically important, is this thing called the Special Needs Trust. And if you haven't done one, then you'll want to meet with your financial advisor and talk about it, or meet with your estate planning attorney and get your will in place and direct any assets that are going to your family member with special needs towards the Special Needs Trust. The reason I chose not to have a special slide on it today is we can talk about Special Needs Trust for 2, 3, 4 hours. It's a critical part to planning. If you haven't heard about it, go online and read more about it. Get my book and read the chapter on that. If you have one in place already, fantastic. You've done a great job. But a lot of people stop just at the Special Needs Trust, and really it's not so much of a cornerstone. It is sort of that foundational element of planning. But I always say you don't want to live in a foundation. We want to live in a house or a condo or an apartment or someplace nice and have a roof over our head and have some nice amenities that go with it. And a lot of people put their Special Needs Trust and they stop there. But for most of us, and I did it, I think I was 38 when my daughter was born, somewhere around there, maybe 37, I have a lot of life in front of me. And my expectation is that trust isn't going to have any money in it until I die or my daughter's mother dies or other people somehow die and fund the trust. And so a lot of people just put the trust in place and stop. And so it's a huge piece of planning. It's something you definitely need to think about. You can spend weeks, months, and years fretting over whether you're going to do it right or not. And so if you get, as we're talking about it today, I always say that you can have a special needs trust done and in place and that part of your planning done in 30 days. It shouldn't take you more than that once you've made that commitment that comes from that hour of planning to get stuff in place. It shouldn't take more than 30 days from when you first meet with an attorney to figure out kind of what you want to do to have you signing documents that it's all done. Now, some people have much more extreme financial lives and complicated financial lives, but that's not most people. And so there is something to say, if you write down one thing on a piece of paper right now, write down special needs trust, 30 days, get it done. But again, it's only one piece, and it's really, for most of us, a piece that's not going to be as viable a planning tool as getting out of debt, saving for emergency funds, planning for retirement, and taking care of the rest of our financial life, being good parents, being good people, maybe getting involved with the nonprofits that are going to serve our families so we know where to go. While you're alive over the next, I don't know the age of the people listening, somewhere between 10 and 60 years we'll call it, those other parts of life, and did I get my trust right or not, are going to be more important. And so you'll see in the next two slides, I think if you just build a good team, and your good team usually involves an estate planning attorney. Some people do their financial planning on their own, but if you use a financial advisor, making sure somebody who has some understanding of this particular world, and then depending on the complexity of your situation, a good tax advisor. These are the three people that you can really rely on to get the technical work done, explain it to you as you're going along, and explaining what every step is going to get there. So as I think about special needs planning, I really think of building the team as hugely, hugely important. And also, just my feeling is we don't have to go it alone. I know when my daughter was born, I met with everybody, with nonprofits, with other parents. I think people were happy to see me, but I think sometimes they weren't so happy to see me because I kept asking questions over and over again, just kind of figuring out what's out there. And there weren't good people who could explain this piece, but I probably met with half a dozen estate planning attorneys just to kind of see not to get my work done, but just to kind of see what their take on it. And so it wasn't too much of a pain in the neck, but if you have a good team in place, you're going to accelerate everything you're trying to do. So again, just talked about, I forgot that on the slides I'm looking at, I didn't add this trust in there. So yeah, you want to know what that role of the trust is. The trust tends to get funded when somebody dies. We get to talk about all the wonderful things in financial planning, but that might be when a mother or father, grandmother or grandfather, aunt or uncle, we tend not to put money into a special needs trust, and there's some tax complexity around when we do that, until somebody dies. And the role of the trust, like I said, is to preserve benefits. The great thing about a trust is, and I kind of look at it like when I'm alive, I've got money. I'm a guy, so it's in my wallet. But if you're a mom, it's in your purse or pocketbook someplace. And when my daughter wants to, I don't know, go get a cup of coffee or go to a movie, I just open up my wallet and I pay for whatever she needs. The trust basically serves that role when I'm no longer alive. And so part of my estate, whatever is left after I die, whatever money and assets I have, her share will go into a special needs trust. You probably heard the word, some people call it a supplemental needs trust. And then I designate a trustee. It might be my mother, my brother, it might be a bank or a financial institution. And then they are able to make distributions to benefit my daughter. And so it basically replaces what I was going to do. There's some restrictions around it, around Medicaid, so you want somebody who knows what they're talking about. But by having her money in that trust, it allows her to get that supplemental security income. It allows her to get health insurance through Medicaid, and then it allows her to get state-funded services. And so trust, hugely important. It's going to be there. And again, lots of complexity there, a lot of learning that you're going to need to do. When I do a workshop on it, it's over 2 hours, and so we're just touching on it today, and I apologize for how quick sometimes we have to move through things. But the other part of the trust is that it really allows for this kind of high quality of life, and for my daughter. And I don't know about you, but so SSI at $771 a month, I don't think in any city in this country at this point pays for very much. I talk to people in California all the time, and they just laugh at that. $771, that doesn't do anything. They'd have to live with 20 people on a commune, which maybe more often can be found in California than Colorado. But there's just not a lot of way to live a high quality of life for life on that. Now, Medicaid is huge and pays for all the health insurance needs, but we also need some additional money. And so the trust is this other pool of money that can be accessed. So if my daughter wants to go to Disney, or she wants to go to the movies, or go bowling, or get a TV set, or furniture, the trust can be used for all of that. Now, there's certain things it can't be used for, and there's certain rules around it, mostly around food and housing, but lots of quality of life things can be used for the trust. Just skip through the worksheets, make sure I didn't miss any. Communicating your plans is also hugely important. So you might go along and do all of the work that you need to do. Get the special needs trust in place, start to get out of debt, build financial assets. But you may also have, I would say, the well-meaning aunt or uncle, and we've had this numerous times, who doesn't have children of his or her own, and then they want to leave, a portion of what they've got to your family member, and they just put it in their will or their life insurance policy, leave it to Rob's daughter. Well, that's not going to work. And so one of the things that once your planning in place is done, you've got to go out and talk to people that might be the best people in the world trying to do the right things, but they just aren't doing it the right way. And so this is another skill to build, and all through special needs planning, we're looking at who do we become as people, how do we become better at communicating with family, how do we become better on our financial assets, and it's all this kind of personal growth that comes along with it too. So you're going to want to figure out who in your family you need to talk to. And so you want to write a list down of those people, mom, dad, brother, sister, are the obvious ones. It's unlikely your friend group is going to want to leave money to you or your family, but if you have better friends than I do, that's fantastic, and hopefully they will. And so you're just going to want to write down those people and just let them know what planning you've done. And there's a great way to do it. You don't have to go out and say we're demanding you to do anything or we're expecting you to do anything. And you want to just say we are doing this planning to protect these benefits, and here's why, and then just open and engage around the conversation. I'm getting close to my time limit too. The hottest thing out there right now is the ABLE account, at least in terms of what people are thinking about. The ABLE account is a fantastic tool. It does not replace the Special Needs Trust. The ABLE has some restrictions. You can only put $15,000 a year into it, and once there's $100,000 in it, that some government benefits are lost. Many of them are maintained, but some are lost a little bit. And so it has a great use in planning. And we can talk more about that at another time. What I love about the ABLE is this is really the first time where I can give my daughter access to more than a very, very small bank account, and that she can then learn some of her own, hopefully, financial stability and how to use money. Now, I say that knowing that Sarah is unable to basically tell you the difference in value between a penny, nickel, dime, and a quarter. And she'll go out and have lemonade stands, and somebody will give her $1, and she'll be very excited about it, and somebody will come 5 minutes later and give her a 20 and say, keep the change. She will be equally excited. So her ability around finances and money, not so good. But this is at least a way I can start to do a little bit of financial education, give her some more independence, let her make her own decisions. And if I handle it the right way, it won't destroy all the other financial resources that I'm trying to create for my family by having her have access to everything. And so that SSI benefit, the Medicaid benefit, the ABLE account is a new account that allows for somebody to do it. There's some tax benefits. It's really the first time in special needs planning that we can use tax benefits because of this type of account. And so if you're thinking about an ABLE, it's a great kind of starter account. It's a nice way to save money. If somebody all of a sudden gifts your son or daughter, $3,000 for some reason, $5,000, you can put it right into the ABLE and not lose any benefits. And so we've seen it sometimes as a great collection tool for gifting. So this is really the last slide. Depending on how old you are, you remember what this is if you're looking at it, and if you're just listening in, it's film. And I don't know, when I was younger, when you took a picture, it was always fascinating. You'd take a whole roll of film. You had to wait till the roll was done. You'd bring it someplace. It got down to an hour, but it used to take about a week to get your pictures back. And if the film had been in the camera for a long time, sometimes you didn't even remember what you'd taken pictures of. But the process of film was a process of transformation, right? That we took picture on this stuff that was delicate, and then we sent it someplace, and through this chemical process, we got our pictures back, and we got just these treasured memories that we then go put in photo books. And really, when I think about the people that are most successful with real good special needs planning, they're ones that aren't just trying to put the technical pieces in place. Those are pretty easy to do, actually. But they take it as an opportunity to grow and learn about themselves, to really think about where they want to head in the future, and to make some important decisions now that just pay off great in the future. And so hopefully this is just a little bit of a spur for you to go find out a little bit more about what you want to do, what you can do, and that every month, every year, you and your family are just growing in all kinds of great ways. And you really look at it as an exciting life journey as much as anything else. So I appreciate your time today. That's all I've got. Happy to answer questions. Happy to have follow-up by email to some degree with people as well. My information is up there for our websites, and my book is on Amazon if you want to take that next step. But good luck, and I hope everything goes well for everybody.
Thanks, Rob. That was really great. So we can open it up for Q&A now. I'll remind everyone, if you have a question, you can use the chat box, or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And the first question that we have for you is asking, if I don't have a financial planner, can I work with a financial planner just to create a special needs trust?
So there's a good question. There's the person that'll create the special needs trust will actually be an attorney, an estate planning attorney. When you think of getting a will, it's the same kind of person that does that. You don't actually need the financial planner at all to create the special needs trust. And so if you're not working with one, that's easy. Just find a good attorney. A lot of people come into their financial planner before they ever get to their attorney and just try and map out what it is that they want to do. But there's absolutely no reason to do that. And so we often work with people that come in, they already have their estate plan done. It's usually done fine for all of their purposes, and then we'll just do a quick review on it. So look for in the worksheets, you can find some information that I think is helpful in looking for an estate planning attorney. Somebody that obviously knows what they're doing around special needs planning is important. I would say don't use your brother-in-law that does real estate law in a different state. They will not know what's going on in the special needs planning work that you need to have done in your state.
Okay, great, thank you. And the next question is referring to supplemental security income that you talked about towards the beginning of the presentation, and asking if there's an application for this, or how you make sure that that's set up and in place.
Yep. So when your family member turns 18 is the first time you can get SSI for them on their record. Some people can get their family member can get SSI if their total household income is lower and your family member is still under the age of 18. And the way you do it, and it's probably changed, is you go to the Social Security Administration office near you. And usually what you can do is go onto their website, ssa.gov, look for the local Social Security office. You may even be able to make an appointment online with SSA, Social Security Administration, and then you'll fill out an application for qualifying for SSI. When you go to that meeting, a key factor is that your family member has a qualifying disability. And so you will want to bring, if you have it, some medical record that says, my daughter has Down syndrome, so this is considered a chronic disease. It's not going to go away. But if you have a family member who had a brain injury that may be able to heal from that, that might look a little different. So you want some medical records that show the support of the disability. If you've got school records like IEPs and other things that come with it, those are also great secondary documents to have, because you're basically going to put in an application that shows, on the one hand, that this person does have a disability, and then you'll have to show on the other hand, or just state, that they don't have assets or countable resources of more than $2,000. But you do all that through the Social Security Administration.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. The next question is, I'm worried that my sister hasn't planned for her special needs adult daughter. If my sister passes away without a plan, what will happen to my niece?
Obviously, I need to know a little bit more. Let me just jump in and make some assumptions. I'm assuming your sister is either divorced or widowed or doesn't have a partner. And so your niece is potentially of age. Somebody will have to step in. This somebody might end up being the state agencies at wherever that state is, and come up with some emergency. It might be that your sister, that the nearest closest family member, which sounds like it would be you, is going to be extremely busy for a period of time trying to make sure that your niece is situated in the right way. In my planning, in legal planning, people often appoint what's called a guardian. And so a guardian is in charge of the health and well-being of that person. And so in my case, if there's nobody around that's a direct parent, I'm divorced. So if my ex-wife and I are no longer alive, I think my brother has been appointed guardian, and my other brother, and then maybe my sister-in-law. And so we've named some people to make those decisions about where that person's going to live. If you have underage children who are, whether they have a special need or not, you also will want to have a guardian appointed. The best thing you can do would be to help your sister get some basic legal stuff in place, so that there's not this crisis that who's in charge, what's going to happen, and that your niece is at risk, because that could happen if something happens to your sister. Somebody needs to step in and navigate the systems for your niece.
Okay.
So there's no great answer there other than the best thing you can do is help her get some basic planning in place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And this looks like the last question we have, which is, I've read some things online about pooled trusts for families that aren't able to leave a large amount of money for their special needs family members. Can you talk about those a little bit? So, Rob,
Yep.
I'm not sure if you have some time to explain that.
Yep. No, and we manage assets for one of the local pooled trusts here, and then I was on the board of one in Denver as well, so I'm pretty familiar with them. I think they are great when assets are a little bit lower, and maybe there's no point in setting up a trust and having a trustee, and you've got some additional layers of fees and complexity that need to go with it. So a pooled trust is it's a bunch of different people who have their money in it. And so I think they typically work for families that have under $50,000, maybe even up to $100,000 of assets that they're going to leave to their child. And so the one that I know really well here, you go into the pooled trust, and it's basically a one-page piece of paper that says, I want my family member, I want, in case my daughter, any assets she has to go into the pooled trust, and we can do that. There might be like a $250 joinder fee just for the administrative piece of it. In some states it's probably higher than that, so I don't know for sure. And then if my daughter got money directly from me or somebody else and I hadn't done all this trust planning work, then somebody would assist her and have her money moved right over to the pooled trust. The nice thing about the pooled trust is they usually comes with somebody that provides some case management. And so at the pooled trust, they'll sort of put together a plan to say, how are we going to use and spend this money? They get much better pricing on asset management, $50,000 per individual versus $3, $5, $10, $20 million for a pooled trust. So you're going to get more professional asset management at a better price. And again, they're going to pay some fees for the caseworker piece of it, but that's pretty good too. Most of the time we see people use a pooled trust when they get money in their own name. And so that's if somebody didn't leave money the right way. There's actually 2 or 3 different kinds of special needs trusts, and it has to do with whose money it is. So, but for families that don't want to spend a lot of money on setting up and maintaining a trust, a pooled trust can be a great way to go. The problem is you still need to do an estate plan because you still need to direct where assets are going to go. And so it doesn't completely reduce that cost. That might be, you know, a few thousand to $10,000, depending on your state and complexity for an estate plan. But the pool trust can be a great tool to quickly get money out of that person's name to preserve benefits.
Okay, great. Well, those are the questions we have, Rob. So I want to thank you for a really, really great presentation, and thank you for talking about your personal experience as well as explaining the more technical issues around this. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will be sending out the contact information for Rob as well as his book, and you should have already received the worksheets that Rob talked about, but we'll make sure we send those again. So thank you to everyone, and thank you so much, Rob.
Sure, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.